Stop what you are doing. Stop the conversation you are having. Stop scrolling. Because what we are about to tell you is not another development in a conflict that has already produced developments the world was not prepared for. What we are about to tell you is a before and after moment. The kind of event that divides military history into two periods, the period before it happened and the period after. Iran has shot down an F-35. Let those four words exist on their own for a moment before we add anything to them. Iran has shot down an F-35. A U.S. F-35 fighter jet flying a combat mission over Iran was struck by what is assessed to be Iranian fire and was forced into an emergency landing at a U.S. airbase in the region. CNN. The United States military has confirmed this. Captain Tim Hawkins, a spokesperson for U.S. Central Command, confirmed the aircraft landed safely and that the pilot is in stable condition, and that the incident is under investigation. CNN. Read that official statement carefully. Read what it says, and then read what it does not say. It does not say the aircraft completed its mission. It does not say the aircraft returned to base under normal operational circumstances. It says emergency landing. It says under investigation. In the language of military public affairs, those two phrases carry a weight that their brevity conceals. Emergency landing means the aircraft was damaged severely enough that normal flight was no longer possible. Under investigation means the United States military does not yet have, or is not yet prepared to release, a full account of how one of its most advanced combat aircraft was struck while flying over enemy territory. Iran has released video. That video is now circulating. It shows what Iranian state media is presenting as the engagement, the moment of strike, the aircraft, the proof. Iranian state media is not known for restraint in its presentation of military claims, and the footage requires independent verification. But the American confirmation removes the central question. This happened. The F-35 was hit. The only questions that remain are how and what it means. And those questions are the most important questions in the world right now, because of what the F-35 is. There is no aircraft in the inventory of any military on Earth that carries more technological and strategic weight than the F-35 Lightning II. It is the product of the largest, most expensive weapons development program in the history of the United States Department of Defense, a program that has consumed over $1 trillion across its full life cycle, and that was designed to produce an aircraft so capable, so survivable, so dominant in its operational environment that adversaries would not possess the means to defeat it for decades. The cornerstone of that survivability claim is stealth. The F-35's airframe geometry, its radar-absorbent surface coatings, its managed emission profile. Every design decision made across the decades of its development was oriented around a single operational premise: that the aircraft would be invisible to the radar systems adversaries could realistically deploy against it, that it would operate inside enemy airspace, complete its missions, and return without being detected, targeted, or engaged. That stealth made it effectively immune to the air defense problem that has defined aerial combat since the introduction of surface-to-air missiles. Iran found it anyway. That sentence, and everything it implies, is what is now sitting in the situation rooms in Washington, in the Pentagon's classified briefing spaces, in the intelligence agencies of every nation that has purchased, operates, or is considering purchasing an F-35. 22 countries fly or have ordered the F-35. 22 governments whose entire air combat strategy, whose entire investment in air power for the next generation, rests on the foundational assumption that stealth works against the threat environments they will face. That assumption is under direct, confirmed operational challenge tonight. How did Iran do this? That is the question that every defense analyst, every radar engineer, every electronic warfare specialist is asking right now. And there is an answer that is emerging from the analysis of what has been observed in this conflict. An answer that points not to Iran alone, but to a capability that Iran did not develop in isolation. China. The People's Liberation Army has been developing a specific category of radar technology for over 2 decades, with a single primary objective: defeating stealth. Low-frequency, long-wavelength radar systems, operating in the VHF and UHF bands rather than the higher frequencies that conventional air defense radars use, interact with stealth aircraft geometry in a fundamentally different way. The physics of radar cross-section reduction, which makes the F-35 effectively invisible to high-frequency tracking radars, does not apply uniformly across all radar frequencies. At lower frequencies, the wavelength approaches the physical dimensions of aircraft structural features, wing leading edges, tail surfaces, engine inlets, and produces a radar return that stealth coatings and geometry cannot fully suppress. China's YLC-8B, its JY-27A, its DWL-002 passive detection system, these are not theoretical programs. They are deployed systems that Chinese military engineers have tested and refined specifically against the stealth signature problem. And the question that the intelligence community has been working on throughout this conflict, a question that now has urgent operational relevance, is whether Chinese radar technology, Chinese sensor systems, Chinese detection capability has been transferred to Iran in a form that made tonight possible. The incident would be the first time in this war that Iran has hit a U.S. aircraft. CNN, the first time. In a conflict where F-35s have been flying missions over Iranian territory repeatedly, where the assumption was that stealth provided protection sufficient to make those missions survivable, where the entire operational architecture of American air power in this theater was built on the premise that Iran could not solve the detection problem that the F-35 was designed to create. Iran solved it, or someone helped Iran solve it. And the aircraft on the ground at a U.S. airbase in the Middle East right now, damaged, grounded, under investigation, is the proof. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said on the same day that the U.S. is winning decisively and that Iran's air defenses have been flattened. CNN. That statement was made hours before this confirmation. It now exists in the same news cycle as the confirmation that an F-35 was struck and forced into emergency landing over Iranian territory. The distance between those two statements, between the official American characterization of this conflict and the operational reality that Iran just demonstrated, is a distance that the administration will find very difficult to bridge in the briefings, the press conferences, and the congressional hearings that will follow tonight's confirmation. This is not a political observation. It is a strategic one. The credibility of an armed force's claims about its own capabilities is itself a military asset. Nations build deterrence on the belief of adversaries and allies alike that their capabilities match their declarations. When a confirmed event directly contradicts an official declaration made on the same day, when a defense secretary says the enemy's air defenses are flattened, and that enemy then hits an F-35 over its own territory, the credibility gap that opens is not merely embarrassing, it is operationally significant. Because the nations watching this conflict, the allies calculating how much to rely on American security guarantees, the adversaries calculating how much to fear American military action, are all updating their assessments right now based on what they are seeing rather than what they are being told. There is a second dimension to tonight's event that extends beyond the immediate operational picture and into the longer strategic horizon of this conflict and the ones that will follow it. The F-35 program was designed with an assumption about the future threat environment. That assumption said, the most capable adversaries will have radar technology within a certain performance envelope, and the F-35's stealth signature will fall below that envelope's detection threshold. The program was not designed against an indefinite future threat. It was designed against the best available projection of what adversaries could deploy within the operational lifetime of the aircraft. If China has transferred radar technology to Iran that allows detection of the F-35 at operationally relevant ranges, and tonight's event is the strongest evidence yet that something in the Iranian detection chain has changed fundamentally from what was assessed before this conflict, then the assumption that underpinned the F-35 program is compromised. Not theoretically compromised, operationally compromised, in the air, over Iran, tonight. Every F-35 mission that follows this one will fly in an environment where the Iranian detection architecture is known, by confirmation, to have produced a successful engagement against the aircraft. Every pilot who climbs into an F-35 for a combat mission over Iranian territory will do so knowing that the stealth protection that was the core promise of the aircraft they are flying has been penetrated at least once. The psychological dimension of that knowledge and its effect on the operational tempo and risk calculus of American and Israeli air operations in this theater is not something that official statements can fully manage. The Pentagon will investigate. It will produce findings. It will adjust. American military institutions are not static, and the history of American air power is a history of adaptation to surprise. That adaptation will happen here too. But adaptation takes time. And in the interval between tonight's confirmation and whatever operational adjustments the American military makes in response to it, every F-35 flying over Iran is flying with a stealth assumption that has been publicly, operationally, and irreversibly challenged. The video that Iran released will be studied. It will be analyzed frame by frame in intelligence agencies across the world, in Beijing and in Moscow, in Pyongyang and in Ankara, in every capital that has been watching this conflict as a data collection exercise in what American military technology can and cannot do when tested under real combat conditions against a real adversary with real capability. The conclusions those capitals draw from that video and from tonight's confirmation will shape military procurement decisions, alliance calculations, and deterrence postures for years. An F-35 was flying over Iran, Iran's air defense that Pete Hegseth said had been flattened, fired on it. And the most expensive, most technologically advanced combat aircraft ever built landed on a runway in the Middle East with damage that it was not supposed to be possible to inflict on it. That is what happened tonight, and the world has already changed because of it. We are monitoring all developments from the theater, from Washington, from Tehran, and from every capital currently processing the implications of what has just been confirmed. Stay with us.